Introducing Tony and Other People, a podcast. Here's your host, Tony Levesque.
Joe Lawrence.
Tony, how are you?
Good. I don't think we've ever met.
No, I guess I'm familiar with you from the radio and seen you out playing a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over the years.
Recently or?
No, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Can't say as I get out too much, especially now we got young kids at home.
Yeah, I hear you there.
A few times over the years.
Yeah. So with like Dana or?
Yeah,
okay.
it was that time period.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, I don't remember some of that. So what do you do?
I work for Cornell University, focused mostly on field crops. So I work with farmers around the whole state, actually, and put in research trials with mostly corn, alfalfa, the crops that are fed to dairy cows mostly.
Okay.
So, and I started out working locally for the Cooperative Extension Office here in Lewis County, doing similar work just here in the county. And then when I was about 30, I guess, I decided I needed to just try something different before I got too old. And so I left there and worked for a local consultant in the area, and then I worked at the Wildville Farmers Co-op for a little while.
Okay.
And then
they're good people down there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it there. It was a good group of people, and the work was good too, but this opportunity came along, and I enjoy the educational component to it. I guess that's really what we are in Extension as educators. We're just doing more adult education than youth. So
okay. So what is your day-to-day like at the job? You're driving around to different farms and...
Yeah, so I do some kind of, I guess you'd call it consulting in a way, and troubleshooting with farms. We have research trials where we plant different crops in farmers' fields around the state, and we monitor the performance to look at new hybrids of corn, new varieties of alfalfa, and how they perform in different growing conditions. Obviously, there's a fair amount of variation around the state in growing conditions. So.
I never knew it was that complicated. Yeah. I thought, they plant corn across the road and it's just any corn, but
yeah.
I guess when you drive around and see all those signs with the different numbers on there, that's kind of...
Yeah, those are usually company advertisements for their hybrids. So every company has their own lineup of corn hybrids that they sell, and similar to we were talking about your peppers here. I mean, it's not quite the same, but similar in the idea that you have different ones with different characteristics.
Right.
Some may be better for harvesting for grain corn. Some may be better for chopping for silage to feed and that sort of thing. And so companies are always working to make improvements. They've actually worked on some hybrids of corn that are really designed for ethanol. So they make ethanol out of corn, and I mean, you can just use any old corn for that, but they've also selected certain traits in the corn that make it better for ethanol production. So
burns better.
Yeah, and so you get these different, identify these different characteristics that feed to a cow better, or hold up better for transportation for grain corn, or that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, my mom grew up on a farm.
Okay.
And I haven't really been around farms most of my life. My early childhood, we used to go hang out at my grandfather's farm. But I never realized, now that I work at the Moose, all the farmer friends I have, how complicated every little bit of it is. Like last summer, I mean, we had so much rain, I couldn't even mow half my lawn for most of the year. And now this summer, I've mowed it probably 5-6 times. Right. And I imagine for farmers, that's their livelihood. If you got a crappy year of weather, that could make or break a farm.
Yeah, and especially for dairy farmers, because they need that forage to feed their animals. So there's actually, like, for grain farmers, there's insurance programs out there. So in a real wet year like last year, they could elect to buy insurance, and if they were prevented from planting the crop because of the bad weather, they can get some reimbursement to compensate for not being able to sell that grain at the end of the year. But for a dairy farmer,
Yeah.
they need something to feed the cows all winter. So
That's right. Yeah.
and there's a lot to it in terms of, with the hay crop, harvesting at a certain stage so that it's the most nutritious to the animals.
Right.
So we see farms harvest crops a lot more frequently than they used to because cows are producing more. They have higher demands. It's really like a lot of people liken it to a performance athlete.
Right.
So they have higher nutritional demands. So if you cut the hay crops at a younger stage, they're more digestible, more nutritious, and
Okay.
So years ago they talked about taking 1 or 2 cuttings a year and maybe being done with the first cutting by fair or something like that. And
Right.
now if you don't have your first cutting done by Memorial Day, most years you're kind of getting late.
Right. How was this year?
Well, I mean, it's starting to, locally here, it's starting to get concerning now because we need some rain.
Right.
But May was actually a fairly good month in terms of the lack of rain in May allowed farms to get corn and stuff planted in a timely manner, and they had a pretty good window of weather to get the hay crop off.
Right.
But now we could really use some rain to help the regrowth of the hay and help the corn and soybeans and stuff really get going. So,
Yeah, I know we got some rain coming this week. There's going to be a lot of happy people out
yeah,
there.
yeah, definitely.
Definitely gets dry around here. I noticed my lawn, we've only been here a couple years, but like I said, last year was just a muddy mess. And this year I don't even want to go out there and mow it now because it's so dry.
Yeah. If you mow it too short now, it might not come back.
Right. Well, that's what we get with living in New York State, and especially up here in Lewis County where it's just unpredictable. I mean, we went from 8 months of winter or whatever we had this year to, it seems like summer almost instantly. We had a week or two of spring, colder weather, and then but some years it's the opposite. We have spring forever and maybe a month of summer.
That's right.
So why do you stick around here?
Well, my wife and I both grew up in Jefferson County. We both have family in Lewis County, and we just really enjoy it here. Like the community. Our kids are, the oldest one is 7, so we're getting involved with school stuff now. And
oh, that's chaos, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I start that this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Kindergarten or
pre-K.
Pre-K, yeah.
Yeah.
Our second son is in pre-K this year, so he'll be going to kindergarten next year. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun, and it's exciting to see him grow and learn, but it makes things pretty hectic.
Yeah, yeah. So how old are you?
36.
36. Me too.
Oh, yeah?
Strange.
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
March 29th.
Oh, mine's April 27th.
Okay.
Look at that.
Pretty close.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect. I just got an email from you. I didn't know how old you were.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I'd be looking for in my driveway. But I'm glad you got a hold of me because, last week I interviewed my brother, and I think it seemed to some people that I was grasping at straws to get somebody new every week. But that's how it is. Sometimes, some weeks I'll get a hold of somebody, or have a hard time finding somebody, and now I'm lined up for another 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's nice to have somebody in here too with a different perspective, a different lifestyle. I get a lot of musicians, and I could talk music all day,
Right.
but farming I don't really know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get a different perspective on that.
Yeah, it's funny. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I did the chores that every kid does, but I didn't particularly enjoy it at the time. But
I don't think anyone does.
Then once I got away from it, I kind of realized, I don't know if I want to farm myself, but agriculture is a pretty fascinating thing.
It is.
And farmers are are good people to work with.
Yeah.
So it makes that enjoyable too.
It's definitely true. Farmers are some of the best, most humble people, and they know how to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
They're good friends to have for sure.
Yeah, it's we were talking about the weather and the risk with crops. I mean, it's a pretty risky business in general. You're dealing with Mother Nature. You're in dairy farming. You're dealing with animals, which can be, kind of unpredictable. You do your best to take care of them and care for them, but they're still a living thing.
Yeah. Ultimately, you're trying to tame nature.
Yeah.
And that's just doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and it's a tough time right now. Milk prices are pretty low, so that's, they have the same expenses to take care of their animals and try to maintain the farm, but their income is down and they don't have a lot of control over it. So
Right.
Then they're always, it's always looking for ways to just be a little more efficient.
Right.
And try to get through and hope prices recover.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a tough business, and I notice a lot of farmers aren't first generation farmers. You don't see that anymore because you can't afford to go out and buy a farm and all the equipment and animals.
Yeah,
it has to be handed down.
It's a very capital intensive business.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, a lot of farms, it was kind of handed down, but it was generally the younger generation would pay something for it. But if it was coming from family, they weren't necessarily paying full market value for it. But it makes it tough now too with the lower prices because the senior generation needs something to retire. Generally, selling their assets and the farm is part of their retirement.
Yeah.
But if the younger generation can't afford to, come on and purchase everything.
Yeah.
Then the county, we've been pretty steady in the number of dairy cows we have for a lot of years. But farm numbers have gone down, but farms have also gotten bigger, so the cows are still here. It's just that they're on less total farms. But so it's hard to say what the future will bring, but
right.
It definitely, even in the 10 years I've been here, a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the good thing about the future is we're always going to need farming. That'll never go away. I tell people with radio too, they're like, oh, it's a dying business. No, locally in this area, there'll always be a need.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't survive without food, and you need farms.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's and I think it's a balancing act. There's some animosity out there between the some farms getting larger and the smaller farms, but I think they need each other, and a county like Lewis County needs all of them.
Yeah.
They all contribute to the economy. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, and and they all, it takes all of them to keep the infrastructure we have here, because I think some people take for granted the businesses that are in this area really to support agriculture. I mean, I mentioned working at the co-op for a few years. I mean, good example. A lot of individuals use the co-op for the lumber mill or the hardware store or whatever, but they're really here for the agriculture,
right?
and the rest of us get to benefit from that,
right?
It's
so easy nowadays, especially with Walmart right in town and the grocery stores, to you need toothpaste, so you go to the store and you're like, well, I need eggs and I need milk and all that stuff. When you should be buying local. It might take a little extra time, it might take a little extra money, but you're maintaining this area. If these farms go away, there's nothing here. And the best part about this area, I mean, we live in a beautiful part of the country, but the real best part of this area is the people.
Yeah.
And those people aren't going to be around if you don't support local businesses.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that a lot of the smaller local businesses use other local businesses. They'll use there used to be a bakery in town, and they used all local ingredients.
Oh, right.
And Nolts is down there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really lucky. We've got the farmers market right in town. We don't buy lettuce anywhere else in the summer. We go down to the farmers market and get it fresh, from local people that put their heart and soul into it. And it's not like it's expensive either,
No, it isn't. And I mean, quite frankly, our food budget in this entire country is a pretty low percentage of our income compared to a lot of other places of the world. We may still think some certain things are expensive because we've gotten pretty spoiled by relatively cheap food, but you're absolutely right. It's not that expensive.
Well, it's nothing for people to go out and, drop $50 for dinner at a restaurant to get one meal.
Yeah.
And we have to do that too. We have to support our local businesses that way.
But it's pretty cool. Sorry to interrupt. It's pretty cool that, a lot of our local restaurants are using local products too. You see local beef on the menu or cheese or something like that. Or, and
local plates too. Like local, I see Ridgeview has the cheese curd on the, what is it? The fried cheese curd. Yeah. And that's something that you really, it's kind of local to this area. Krogan bologna.
Yeah. Through the county and the extension office that you may have seen, they've launched this little campaign called Naturally Dairy as a spinoff of the Naturally Lewis campaign. And, part of that came from the question of, well, how do we help farms? And, the milk pricing is a global market, so that's not like our county legislators or you or I can really affect milk price, but we can, buy more local products. We can just, support the local businesses and show the farms the appreciation for what they do. And that's really what this Naturally Dairy campaign is kind of about, is just bringing awareness to the, what's going on here locally and the all the stuff agriculture has going on. And one thing I've said in visiting with some of the folks about that is it's think local, buy local, and I've added embrace progress too, because one pet peeve I have is I'm a huge supporter of the farmers markets and buy local, but I work kind of on the production side of agriculture, so I'm working with bigger systems and the technology, and there's we have a lot of great technology, a lot of safe technology, and sometimes some of these little niches and trends in food are, whether it's organic or non-GMO or whatever, in my perspective anyways, it's kind of going backwards. These are technologies that have been proven safe, and now we're basically these trends are coming along, and people are willing to pay a premium for food that's kind of produced without using that. So I'm not against organic by any means or any of those, and there's market. It also represents a market opportunity from a business standpoint, but I do. I don't know how to say. I don't like it when we pit one sector against the other, because I don't think that helps anyone. If you want to produce something organically and sell it that way, that's fine, and if there's customers that want that, that's fine too. But to put down another production method to promote your product, that's what bothers me, because then it then the consumer starts to get concerned. Well, why, there must be something wrong with this other way of doing it.
Yeah.
When in reality,
do you want chemicals all over your food? That type of thing.
Yeah. So,
we're all in the same business.
Right. And there's different ways of doing it. And yes, there are some examples of, stuff like chemicals that have come to market that, after a while have been shown that there was a problem with them that was unexpected. And so, I certainly don't advocate for not testing this stuff. I think we should be continually questioning and testing everything because we learn more. The science gets better every day. So once something comes to market and is approved, I don't think we say stop, it's safe, well, let's not test it anymore, let's
Right.
not worry about it. We need to keep reevaluating it. But at the same time, I don't think we should be putting fear into consumers by saying that we're, that a term that gets used is absence labeling. So you label a product as like the absence of something, like what from gluten free to GMO free to hormone free, whatever. And so by labeling the absence of something, it's almost implying to the consumer that
That thing is bad.
that thing's bad.
Right.
And it undermines consumer confidence in our food system. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that hurts all of us.
Right.
So
Do you think it came out of an innocent place? A company wants to sell their product to the most people it possibly can. Like growing up, my dad was diabetic, so we always looked for stuff that was sugar-free. Not because we thought sugar was awful, but my dad couldn't have it, so
Right.
we wanted something that we could all have. And I think, do you think it's that, they're trying to reach the broadest market? Because some people do have gluten allergies and wheat allergies, so they just want to make something that's safe across the board.
Yeah, no, I think there's legitimate reasons for a lot of that stuff, just as the examples you gave. It just tends to, as a lot of stuff in our society, it gets trendy,
Right.
and it kind of gets blown out of proportion.
And then people like that and only that.
Right.
And
And, all due respect to people with gluten allergies or wheat intolerance, but, I think the statistic is like less than 1% of the population actually has the celiac disease, which is the real, true gluten intolerance. That's
Right.
I'm not questioning other people that have an insensitivity to it, but when you look at the number of gluten-free things on the shelf, when it's,
Yeah.
in reality, a pretty
compared
small,
to how many people that are actually need that.
right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so I don't want to come across as diminishing the importance of that, or the necessity of it for the people that truly need it. I just get concerned that we go down these pathways and we kind of shun certain technologies, and when in reality there's really nothing wrong with them for most of the population.
Right.
And they've been developed for reasons in terms of the efficiency of our food system. I'm not going to remember the exact numbers, but I recently saw some statistics comparing dairy cows in the 1950s to today. And, to produce every gallon of milk, we use a small percentage of the acres, a small percent of the water. So we're using a lot less natural resources to produce the same gallon of milk, because each cow gives more per cow because they're fed better, they perform better,
Probably healthier.
healthier. Every acre of land is growing more crop per acre because we're managing it better. So we've gained a lot of efficiencies that way, and as a result, our farming system has less impact on the environment than it ever has. But at the same time, we also end up, farmers have to give up some of these technologies that helped us get here to meet a kind of a consumer trend or whatever. So,
Right.
but I think, we talk about farming being natural or not natural. Well, it's been part of our system for, tens of thousands of years now. But at the end of the day, it's not, if, in the Great Plains, there were bison that grazed and stuff, but if in the Northeast here, this was all woods. And if we just stopped farming today, what would happen? This would all grow back to woods eventually, right? That's the natural system here. So, yes, farming has been here essentially since we've been here, but it's not the natural state of the ecosystem. So,
and a lot of what we grow was probably not original to this area as well.
Right. Yeah. Crops have been moved all over the world, to find certain climates that they do well in and stuff like that. So,
That affects everything.
Mhm.
The bee population,
Right.
which they always talk about, which
yeah.
could ruin us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's, there's a lot of things going on there, and, there are some chemicals used by farmers, some insecticides that are potentially linked to some of it. But there's a scientist also has some other theories about what we're doing and what might be affecting it. So, that's another example where I'm not, certainly wouldn't say that agriculture is not to blame for it.
Mm-hmm.
We may play a part in it, but it seems like there's scientists are uncovering multiple layers to it.
Right.
And but usually we just hear about one or two of them
Mhm.
in the more popular press type
Yeah.
of thing.
Whatever
So,
the media wants to
yeah.
tell you is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm lactose intolerant.
okay. Yeah.
So I can't, I'm not supposed to,
Right.
and drink milk. And I love cheese, and I love ice cream and milk,
Yeah.
and I just suffer.
Yeah.
So there are ways to, I don't think people with a true gluten allergy can really have gluten.
Yeah.
But I still support the farms, even though I'm not supposed to.
Have you tried our new local goat milk gelato? Have you heard
No,
about
I
that?
hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure my wife has, because she's nuts for that type of thing.
So there are. I mean, I'm probably going to get this wrong, and Blake will yell at me. But there's so goat milk doesn't have, or some people that are intolerant to cow's milk can actually drink goat milk because it's tends to be easier on the digestive tract and doesn't have the same amount of lactose, or maybe any. I'm not sure, but Blake Place and her husband Andy are the ones doing that down in Glenfield, and they're I've actually known them for quite a while now, just through agriculture, and so it's exciting to see what they're doing there. And I think that's another thing that's a real positive for this area. I mean, we're known for our dairy farms, and certainly that's going to continue to be a big part of our farming industry. But we have an apple orchard, a vineyard, we have a couple goat farms now. We have
Hops farms.
hops,
Lavender, I see.
right? Lavender. Yep. We're seeing more. We're seeing more greenhouses go up for extended season fruit and vegetable production, which is a great thing to see. And I think that diversification, not that I think we'll continue to be a strong dairy area, but that diversification is going to help, especially in these times of low milk prices and stuff.
Well, I mean, for the past 36 years I've been on this earth, it seems like there's so many farms out there that you see running for years, and then they just kind of fade away, and the farm and the land is just sitting there. And I'm glad these other businesses, other farms are coming in.
Yeah.
The vineyards, the hops farms. That's a great. At least they're using the land, and if you can't make money with dairy or some of the other crops, there are other ones out there.
Yeah.
But it seems like too, it takes a long time for. Like with hops, I think you have to grow it for like 5 years before you have, or 3 years before you really have a viable product to sell. So it's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And if it's not passed down through the family,
Right.
you got to be a millionaire just to start a farm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And there's I live up near Martinsburg, and there's a Christmas tree farm up there. And that's the same thing. I mean, you think about Christmas trees, you make that investment into the land, and it's several years before you,
Right. Get to reap any benefits at all.
And almost every form of farming is pretty capital intensive. So you either have to have some money stocked away, or like you said, pass it down in the family, or but yeah, and there are some programs out there, some grants and stuff to help with curb some of that cost to encourage new people to get into agriculture. I mean, sometimes grants can, frankly, be more frustrating than they're worth, because of all the paperwork you have to go through and how long it takes to do it. But they do try to help people. They do try to encourage people to to invest
stay
and
here
stay here and get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
So,
thing. I like how the local area really works towards keeping people here. When I was in high school, I don't know about you, but it seemed like they were forcing you to, you need to get out of here. You need to go to college. You need to leave this area. You know, they weren't forcing you, but that was the idea they put into your head, that you need to leave this area. But the longer I live here, the longer I want to live here.
Yeah.
I think it's just a great area to live in. It's a great area to raise your kids. There's not a lot of big city opportunities here, but
Well, there's a lot of culture here. It might not be an art museum, but there's a lot of cool things going on.
Right.
I see the tents going up for the Bluegrass Festival driving here tonight.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The music taste around here is definitely more southern than anywhere else in really New York State.
Yeah.
We got Snow Ridge, who's going to have a festival this year. I don't think they're doing Modown, but they're doing another concert thing.
Okay, cool.
And I wish more places like that would open up, because I drive down to Cooperstown to the Yamagang Brewery to see shows, and that's exactly what Turin is.
Right.
You know? They're all set up for that. And I know they do, I think there's an obstacle course that they do.
Right, yeah.
Tug
Mutter or something like that. Yeah.
So I like to see things like that. The Maple Ridge Park right down the road where the Bluegrass is going to be. They got the tubing in the winter.
Right. Yeah.
So we could take this beautiful land and, really make something great out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The college thing, it's funny because we obviously, we established we're about the same age. So we probably graduated at a similar time. And
2000.
2000. Yeah. And so I felt the same way. I was really pushed towards college. And I ended up going, and I'm very glad I did. But I still don't think it's for everyone.
Yeah.
And I actually went to BOCES in high school and wasn't going to go to college, and then changed my mind. My dad pushed me to go, and he never went. He was a dairy farmer from the time he was born. I think it's all he ever wanted to do. So he got out of high school and stayed on the family farm. But he pushed all of us kids to go, and it worked out for me. But I still don't think it's for everyone, and I think there's a lot of college programs that you have trouble justifying the debt you incur for the earning potential you have when you get out.
Right.
Certainly there's some things that you have to have a college degree for, and the earning potential is there to pay back your loans. But I feel like especially around the time period we got out of high school, there were a lot of people that were just pushed to college for the sake of going.
Yeah.
And then
they almost made you feel like you needed to. Yeah. And if you didn't, you were never going to amount to anything.
Yeah. And I think, I have a cousin that graduated the same time as me. We went to BOCES together. And he decided not to go to college, and he has a, good job working construction, and he's been doing it since he was 18 years old, and, makes a good living. And I look at it sometimes. I mean, I'm glad I like my job, so I'm glad I had the opportunities I did. But, he got started in life at 18, started making money, and I really didn't start making
with no
money.
debt.
Right, with no debt. And I really didn't start making any money till I was 22, 23, and I had debt.
Yeah.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the problem with that is at 18, what kid knows what they want to do? And if you're not going to go to college for exactly what you want to do, you're really wasting your time and money. Right.
Well, and I think that changed too, even from our parents' generation, is because there was a point where college was pretty darn affordable. Mm-hmm. They talk about you could work a minimum wage job in the 70s and pay your tuition as you went.
And if you got good grades, you could go for free.
Right.
It was always that way.
So I think that mentality carried through at least through the 80s and 90s of, well, just go because
it's an experience.
Right.
You'll be glad you did.
But around the time we graduated high school, all of a sudden it was getting a lot more expensive, and the job market wasn't quite the same. And all of a sudden, like you said, you really have to have an outcome to justify going. And
you can't waste your first 2 years figuring out what you like.
Right.
But I mean, at that age, that's the problem. You got to keep that momentum from high school.
Yeah.
that was my problem. I got out of high school and they pushed me so hard to go to college that I did not want to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to go and party and have, and I knew that's what I would do and flunk
Right.
out, so I didn't bother going. And I always said, hey, I'll wait a year and then I'll go. I'll wait 2 years and then I'll go. And I didn't find out what I wanted to do until 2 years ago,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
34 years old.
Right.
It's, they tell you as kids, you got to figure out as soon as you can what you want to do. Well, how are you supposed to do that if you don't
Yeah.
go and experience things?
You know, it's funny. When I was in early 20s, I worked at Cornell on campus in Ithaca for a few years and was taking classes and working with a professor there, and there was a guy that worked with us. He was a technician in the program, and he was, at the time, he was in his early 40s, so he's 15 years older than me or so. And he'd always say, yeah, someday I'll grow up and figure out what I want to do when I'm an adult. And I'm thinking, in 20-something, and I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this degree, and I'm going to go do this. And it's like the older I get, it's now I'm getting closer to 40, and I'm like, yeah, I wonder what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, too, what kind of jobs are going to be out there, what your
Yeah.
degree is really going to be good for.
Yeah.
I imagine that was tough in the 80s before they really had much for computers, and that's the way everything went.
Right.
If you're going to go to college, that's what you should have gone for in
Yeah.
the 80s, but we didn't know that till the 90s.
Yeah.
And now somebody our age that went to college for computers, none of that knowledge is useful.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still relatively young, but my first year in college, we still had dial-up internet in
Yeah.
the dorms, and we had a home computer maybe when I was a junior or senior in high school, but before that, I got exposed to them in school a little bit. But yeah, by the time I graduated college, internet was everywhere, and
Yeah.
And cell
couldn't live
phones,
without it.
yeah, and so that was and
But not like today.
no, it's crazy.
Can you imagine going back to high school, going back to that time period, and it would blow our minds to know what the world is like now,
Yeah.
with a smartphone.
Yeah.
People take that for granted too,
Yeah.
My kid's got a tablet, she's 4, and can just at the drop of a hat search,
Right.
whatever she wants to watch,
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah.
She can just instantly pull it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and my boys too are, they know how to operate the phones, and and it's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm pretty hooked on my phone because I use it a lot for work. So I value the flexibility it gives me. I mean, sometimes it makes it a little more difficult to separate yourself from work. But at the same time, if I can, if I can address something I need to during the day with the kids or something, and pick up my computer at 9 o'clock at night when they're in bed, or check my email when I'm, off doing something, and just keeping tabs with what's going on, I'll often work for a few hours at night after the kids are in bed and stuff. But then I really value the flexibility that the
Right.
technology brings, even though it does kind of maybe be a little too intrusive sometimes.
It's like every piece of technology, we have to have it for a while before we figure out how to live with it.
Right.
I know people freak out. These kids are on their phones all the time. They're not going to learn anything. But we're reading now more than we ever have, because everything you scroll past,
Yeah.
you're reading little bits and pieces here
Yeah.
and there. You're not reading a book.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are, but you are reading every second that you're on your phone.
Right.
So there's good and bad. We just have to figure out, how to live with it and how to moderate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I, and the listening to audiobooks and podcasts and stuff, I do a fair amount of driving for work, and to me that's been great. And it's funny, I wasn't really a reader until a couple of years ago. I had trouble focusing, and I'd read the newspaper and short stuff like that, but in terms of reading a book, and then just within the last few years I got into reading more books. But then kids and stuff, so now if I have an opportunity to listen to one,
right.
It's
I'm the same way. I can't. I have to be in a quiet room, even with music, because I'm a musician. I'm constantly listening, even the commercials at work. I focus on, oh, that's a C sharp. What's he doing there?
Yeah.
So when I'm reading a book, even with music on, I'll read 2-3 pages and not
know what
consume it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Just the whole time I was trying to figure out what kind of guitar that was in
Yeah.
that song. But even with a kid running around the house, I can't
Yeah.
focus to read.
Yeah.
But that's why I like reading articles and reading news on my phone
Yeah.
or on the computer, because it's shorter. It's little bursts of information
Yeah.
rather than reading a whole
Yeah.
book on stuff. And I love podcasts too. I have a hard time with my car time
Oh yeah.
dividing up the time, because I love music, but I love listening to podcasts, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to listen to? Maybe I'll just listen to a few songs of this, and then, and audiobooks and stuff.
Right.
We really are lucky. We're in the best time
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. The information that's available is.
And imagine what our kids,
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to blow our minds
Yep.
20 years from now.
Yeah. Well, I think of my grandfather passed away a few years ago, but he farmed. He saw from, they still used horses when he was a kid
Mm-hmm.
to tractors with computers in them.
Yeah. $1 million tractors.
Yeah. And, that generation, I mean, we've seen a lot of change since our childhood with the
Mhm.
rapid use of computers, but that generation really saw
Yeah.
an incredible change. So, but yeah, I saw a thing. I've always, our age group kind of gets lumped in with the millennials sometimes, and
No.
I've kind of resented that.
Yeah, me too.
And I saw a thing recently.
Generation X all the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, I saw a thing recently, and maybe it's kind of a silly thing,
Mhm.
but said we were actually a microgener from like 78 to 83.
Yeah.
Was a-
Zennials.
Yeah, it was a micro generation,
Right.
because we grew up with some of the technology that Gen X didn't have, but we're really not
Right.
the millennials. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
Yeah.
millennials has such a bad connotation to it. Nobody wants to be not even millennials
Yeah.
want to be millennials.
and it's not all bad.
Well, you're lumping together a ginormous amount of people,
Yeah,
and obviously they're not all bad people, not even a big percentage,
No.
But it's weird. I love the generational thing. The greatest generation,
Yeah.
they'll always be the greatest generation. But what about the one before
Right.
that? Weren't they better?
Yeah.
Because it's the phrase kids these days.
Yeah.
Because as you grow older, you get more knowledge. You look at kids and they don't know anything. What are they doing? The style, the music,
yeah,
But your parents were thinking the same thing, and
Yeah.
your grandparents were thinking the same thing.
yeah.
So always it's going to be, you hate that next generation. And I don't
Yeah.
even know what's after the millennials now.
No, I don't know either. But no, and there's a lot of cool things that they're contributing to, what's going
yeah.
on around us right now. But they certainly have gotten tagged with a few bad
Yeah.
stereotypes. So
Well, their focus, I think, is a lot of the issue. We're the newest generation, or the millennials, are focused a lot with entertainment, because as technology grows and we get more and more technology, we end up with more free time, because the menial things that we used to do in life, you don't have to focus time on that.
Right.
I mean, we've got robots that vacuum the floor. I mean, seriously, think of that. That's
Yeah.
Jetsons
right,
type of thing. So every little bit of technology that gives us more free time in life, the next generations are focused more on entertainment.
yeah,
I mean, our grandparents didn't have issues with being bored.
right,
You know what I mean? And that's the biggest
Right.
complaint among kids now is, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm bored. You have the World Wide Web in your hand.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want with
Yeah.
that phone.
yeah,
You can't be bored. You're not allowed to be bored.
Right.
But that's me again. The next generation is
Right.
crap because we're better.
I think it. One thing with technology, thinking of older generations, is well, and you're in the music scene, but thinking about the dances that they used to have, and the adult sports leagues,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That stuff. I mean, there's still some of that around, and I feel like Lewis County even has more of that than some other areas, which is cool. But I feel like TV and internet and video games and stuff have kind of taken people away from that, because they don't leave their house to go to a dance or
Right.
get involved in a some sort of recreational sport or something
Right.
like that. And so I wish we could figure out a way to bring some more of that stuff back.
Well, the problem with that is, they did all that to socialize.
Right.
And now you don't need to.
Yeah.
You can socialize, but there's issues with that too, because with the internet, you can type something in and then say, no, I don't want to say that. Let me edit this.
Right.
Or let me take a picture of myself and then, take 20 pictures and pick the best one.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, first impressions and what comes out of your mouth, that's it.
Yeah.
Somebody remembers that the rest of their
Yeah.
lives. But yeah, my mom always talks about, that's what you did on the weekend. You went to a barn dance or something. You're right that this area still clings to that, and I hope that always stays a thing. For one, it's part of my livelihood.
Yeah.
And two, it's community.
Right.
When people come together and like the same music and enough to make your body move
Yeah.
and get up and dance and sweat, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and that should always be.
Yeah, and I think we got the softball, the fast pitch softball and the church league and stuff. And
Yep.
I enjoy baseball as a fan. I was not a very good player myself, but
Me
I think it's cool that we still have that.
Yeah. My friend Mike plays on a softball league every Thursday,
Yeah.
church league.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Well, adults at heart always want to be kids.
Yeah.
So things like that, it takes them out of their everyday routine and the amount of stress that we live with now. Anything that we can take away from that.
Right.
Some people choose to sit in front of a TV. I love doing that too.
Oh yeah. I enjoy
Netflix is my best friend.
Yeah.
But
I heard that. It's funny. You feel like I knew you a little bit even before tonight, just listening to your podcast on the radio and stuff. I'm a huge comedy fan too,
Yeah.
with sitcoms and
Yep.
stuff. That's I'll sit down at night and watch some sitcoms and stuff, and that I definitely enjoy that. I certainly don't judge anyone for that, because I enjoy it too, and I think it's just part of the balance, right?
we need that escape.
Yeah.
I can't shut my brain off to go to bed at night. I have a
Yeah.
hard time sleeping at night. But if I sit in front of the TV for a few hours watching something funny that just takes me out of where I'm at, you know what I mean? Just gets rid of some of that stress.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not like reading where you have to focus. And, my wife loves to read. She's probably out there reading right now. She reads constantly.
Yeah.
She can do that. She enjoys it. I don't.
Yeah.
I do like to read, but it's difficult to escape the way I can with TV.
Yeah.
And there's just everything you want is out there.
Mhm.
If you've got Netflix or YouTube or Hulu, anything you want to watch, you can watch.
Right.
And it's nice to have that at night to shut down, to kind of escape your world. That's why novels were created, to escape reality and go into somebody else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's such an awful thing.
No, it's not. I think it's just nice to see some balance. I actually got involved in a men's hockey league here in Wowville when I moved here, and I skated growing up mostly on a pond. I never played, I played hockey with, on the pond, but nothing organized. But it just happened that a colleague of mine at the extension office played, and he told me about it, and we had just moved here, and I thought, oh, what the heck, get some exercise in the wintertime, meet some people.
A lot of exercise.
Yeah,
Hockey.
Yeah, and and I still play some, and I spend more time working on the ice rink now than I do playing, but I think it's a great thing for the community. It's a great asset for the community, and I met a lot of cool people, and now that I have kids of my own, more priority on doing stuff with them and their sports than me going out and playing sports. But but there's
Adults
some
need
cool-
that too,
yeah.
you know.
But I could stay home, and there's other, I do enjoy watching some TV, but there's other nights a week to do that.
Mhm.
That's 1 or 2 nights a week. If I have the opportunity, then
Yep.
I can watch TV on the other nights. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I used to play hockey in high school. I was
Oh, really?
horrible. I was the worst guy on the team by far, but it was a lot of fun.
yeah,
And I was always skinny growing up.
Oh.
Well, through high school, I
Yeah.
was skinny, and years later, but not physically fit. So hockey really kicked my ass. I always wanted to play men's league, but I ended up moving out of the area for a little
Oh,
while.
yeah.
And but yeah, the community and that skating rink, that pavilion, that whole fairgrounds in Lowville is such an asset that I don't think most people realize.
it's amazing.
It's used for everything.
Yeah, it's amazing what it gets used for and how much work that the fair board puts into stuff down there. There's people there all the time.
Mm-hmm. And the Lewis County Fair has got to be one of the best fairs.
I agree.
It's free to get in. You
Yeah.
know, there's just so much for everybody.
Yeah. I really wasn't a fair person, and I never really, growing up in Jefferson County, never really enjoyed the fair. Went a few times in my life, but just never really thought much of fairs in general. But then I moved here, and now we spend a lot of time there. It's just such a cool place and very family oriented. And
There used to be a lot more field days around too.
Right.
I used to go to the Port Lyden Field Days every year.
Oh,
It still
yeah.
goes on, you know,
Yeah.
but it seems like every little town had their field day,
Yeah.
and then the big fair, you
Yeah.
know, in the middle of summer.
yeah.
That was the big thing to go to.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cool to see some towns try to reinvigorate some of that stuff. Krogan's, done some
spring break in Krogan has really come along.
Yeah, and a few weekends ago they did like a history hop thing.
Right.
And so I like to see that stuff come back and try to participate when we can, just to because it's usually fun stuff to do with the family. And and where I grew up in Cape Vincent, we have French Festival, which I think this is maybe the 50th year, or getting close to the 50th year or something. But it's a similar type of weekend festival, and it has its origins in the area being settled mostly by French settlers, and it also kind of became a family reunion weekend for my dad's family.
Okay.
So we go up, and a lot of my aunts and uncles and cousins are around, and they have a parade and fireworks on the river and craft fair and stuff. But so I have fond memories of that, not just as the festival, but also as kind of our yearly family reunion type.
Got
of
to
thing.
see everyone and
Yeah.
celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cream Cheese Festival in town has come a really long way and blowing up. I mean,
Yeah, that's crazy.
when that first started, it was so small, and now it's huge.
Yeah,
But it takes involvement. It takes a lot of people to make that stuff happen.
absolutely.
And I think every adult that can out there should do something like that. Like in school, they made you join a club, or they encouraged you to join a club just to
Right.
participate something bigger than yourself. I've got to get to one of these emerging professionals
Oh yeah,
meetings that they keep having in events.
yeah.
I used to be part of the Arts Council of
Oh,
Lewis
okay.
County, and it was rewarding to know that you're making a difference in the community. You're putting something out there that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
I think if more adults took a little bit of their time, and it's tough because nobody has any time
Right.
now that it's summer.
Yeah.
Definitely nobody has
Yeah,
time.
yeah, and I think what the emerging professionals are doing is really cool, and I haven't made it to any of the meetings either, and certainly don't mean this in a negative way, but I kind of wish that was here when I first came here and didn't have kids and stuff, because
Right.
then I was looking for stuff to do, and now
Right.
I'm at a different stage in my life, and it's harder to
Mhm.
make it to that kind of stuff. But I'm really glad it's here for both the local folks and maybe folks like me that moved into the community for a job or something to
Mhm.
get to know the area, and it's exciting to see that going on.
And the new people that move into the area get to see, look, these people are involved in their community. They care about
Yeah.
where they live. This is a great place to live.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to be on a couple boards, and volunteer, and now I'm getting more involved with the kids' sports and stuff like that. And it's fun, and it's definitely rewarding to be involved. And
Activities for the kids are very important. You know, a lot of the complaints around here is that there's nothing to do. Well, there is plenty to do. You just it's not slapping you in the face all the time. You got to go out and find it.
Yeah.
But we definitely have a problem in this area with drugs. There's a lot of, and you don't see it until you read the paper or listen to the news.
Right.
You know, and then you realize how much of it there is around. And you know, raising the next generation, we got to focus on keeping those kids busy, enjoying life, finding things that they like to do that's not drugs.
And that's, you know, the hockey or the ice rink. I mean, it's more.
It's a great place.
It's more than hockey, and part of what motivates me to be involved is on any given night after school, there's kids there skating. You know, in the middle of the winter, to be out getting fresh air and exercise, instead of, you know, just sitting inside or even doing something worse, right?
Yep.
And it's free. I mean, certainly snowmobiling and is great. You know, Snow Ridge is a great asset, but those cost money, and if you can afford that, then great. But if you can't, it's nice to have some inexpensive or free activities too.
Right.
And I think that's really important for this area.
Yeah, I agree. I got to get the rink mom in here sometime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Janet.
Janet is amazing.
Yeah, she is.
She's been doing that a long time. When I was playing hockey in high school, she was down there.
Yeah, she's
yelling at kids.
Yeah. she keeps it under control, and
she's no nonsense.
No,
that's what I like about her.
Yeah, but it's amazing. I mean, she does that 7 days a week in the all winter,
and then stands out on in front of the school and protects the kids walking across the street. You know, they don't make them better than Janet.
No, she has a good heart, and she cares about the kids too. I mean, she keeps a law and order there, but she genuinely cares about them. So
I don't think I saw her for 10, 15 years and ran into her one day and she knew my name. You know, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
But that's what that's why this area is so great. You know, people know each other and people love each other, and that's what makes a great community. And I think that's why you see so much crime and heartache in the cities and more urban areas, is because they don't get to know each other.
Right.
Or they're afraid to know each other. Here, you know, you see the same people at Walmart or, you know, at the co-op. Or, so you're kind of forced to know the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and you rely on your neighbors and family and stuff, especially, you know, in the winter time. And, you know, so there's a part of the resiliency of the area like this is it takes the whole community, right? The saying about taking a community to raise or a village to raise a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it really does.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we live in a wonderful area. Yeah, it's getting a little toasty in here. We're going to have to shut this down soon. I didn't realize how hot this room was going to be. I'm going to have to get an air conditioner in the window and run it for 4 hours before I do a podcast from now on.
Nice view from here.
Yeah,
so
I love it. You know, I can see the tree line now until the corn grows a little more.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they were out there cutting, I think, alfalfa.
Oh, yeah.
Across the other way.
Yeah.
I get to sit out here and watch deer and turkeys, and I'm 3 miles from the center of town.
Yeah.
You know, I've said this on a couple different podcasts, but this is a great area. I've said it probably 30 times during this podcast. But you got any plugs to give out? What would you tell the local people about the dairy industry? What direction are you going to point people into?
Well,
or agriculture in general.
Yeah. I think it's just to educate, as a consumer, to educate yourself on what's really going on in agriculture. You know, I kind of vaguely talked about technology as we were visiting here. You know, I spend days talking about this in my day job. So I didn't want to get too into the weeds on it tonight. But you know, I just, yes, certainly support our local products that are, our cheese curd, gelato, stuff at the farmer's market. Certainly support that, but also just learn, try to learn about the food system in general, and there's a lot of fascinating things going on, and we embrace technology in all other areas of our life. We were talking about cell phones and internet tonight, and there's, to me, coming from the scientific side of things, there's no reason not to embrace it in our food system as well. Yeah.
There goes a tractor in the field. We must have known we were talking about him.
Yeah. But so that's where one of the things I feel strongly about is just we're all free to make our choices as consumers, but I encourage people to make educated choices and try to avoid falling into some of these trendy things that
marketing.
Yeah, marketing is a crazy thing, and I don't begin to understand it, but it's powerful. And
it's the same thing as politics. You can say how good you are, but you're not going to make any traction unless you say the other guy is bad.
Right. Yeah. And so that, and organizations like Extension and have a lot of resources available. There is good stuff online. There's garbage online too, but kind of vet your sources a little bit. We hear a lot about fake news, right? And
right.
Our food system isn't exempt from that.
Right.
And unless we wanted to spend 3 more hours talking about it, that's just try to.
Well, we'll have to do 3 more podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah. Just try to learn about what you're getting and embrace all farms. I mean, from the smallest to the largest farm in this county, they're all doing positive things, contributing to the community, contributing to our food system, and the products go different places. But a little thing is you may have seen on Facebook or something. If you're looking for dairy products, even in Walmart, if each dairy product has a plant code on it, and if it starts with 36, that means it was produced in a milk plant in New York State. So it doesn't, necessarily tell you which one, but
right. At least it's somewhat local.
Right. So
it's not coming from Mexico or China.
Yeah. So even if it's not, even if it's not the farmer's market, you can go into Tops or Walmart or something or Aldi's and find that dairy products with that 36 plant code on them, and at least know you're getting something that was produced here in New York. And local has different definitions, right?
Right.
Certainly Lewis County is local, but New York and the Northeast also can be local relative to the world, right?
You're adding to our economy, not somebody else's.
Yeah.
So it's staying within the state. That's a great thing. The more local, the better. But
yeah. And there's a lot of what they call private label stuff. The Kraft plant here in Lowville. A couple of the cheese plants over in Jefferson County, they produce stuff with their label on it, but they'll also produce stuff for, that might be under the Great Value brand name or whatever.
Food Club.
Yeah. So,
I remember making the Japanese, cream cheese when I worked at Kraft.
Oh yeah.
It had a Japanese label.
Oh really?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we, certainly buy whatever you prefer, but even some of those store brands, the private label stuff has
it's still from New York.
Yeah, it's still our milk and still coming out of Kraft or Crawley's or something like that. So, but
well, it was great talking with you today.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Let's do this again some other time.
Sounds good.
All right, good to see you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Tony and Other People, a podcast. Questions, comments, concerns for Tony's overall well-being? Want to be part of the show? Find us on Facebook or email us at tonyandotherpeople@gmail.com.